Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, members of council, administration, and those that are joining us virtually and those that are in our chambers. Welcome to the Town of Stony Plain regular council meeting for June 9th. As you can see outside, it's a beautiful day, and members of council are wearing our lucky jerseys tonight to cheer on the Edmonton Oilers and our hometown boy, Brett Kulak. And as you notice, one of these are not the same, and that's to my left, and to your right, if you're facing us, Councillor Meyer. His good luck charm is not wearing the Oilers jersey, because I think the last time we made him wear one, the Oilers lost. So we're going to continue that tradition, and hopefully that the Oilers get on the win streak again, and we'll bring it home in 5, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Members of council, there is an agenda before you. Administration, anything else to add to the agenda?
Thank you, Your Worship. Nothing further to add.
Deputy Mayor, for the motion to accept.
Mr. Mayor, I move that Town Council adopt the June 9, 2025 regular council meeting agenda as presented.
Thank you. Call the question. All in favor? And that is carried. Moving on with our agenda is number 3, which is the public input session. So this is the time that we allow residents and stakeholders to address council on anything that's not on the current agenda. Administration, has anybody registered to speak?
Through your worship, no one has registered this evening.
Okay, thank you. Is anybody in the gallery like to speak to council on anything that's not on the current agenda? Concerns, issues, or just general comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to number 4, which is presentations and delegations. And today we have 2 presentations. The first one is the 2025 Canadian Association of Municipal Administrators Municipal Inspiring Workplace Award. And I do believe we have the Alberta representative joining us today. And for those that are not aware, Tony is also a CAO in our region. Currently, he is the CAO of Fort Saskatchewan, right, Troy?
That is correct.
Right, and that's the city just west of Edmonton?
It's a really good city, just east of Edmonton.
Oh,
Yeah,
Edmonton's west of you, right?
a really nice city. Not as nice as this, but
Yeah, well, we're just the best town in the region.
sure. Yeah, we'll give you that award.
Well, on behalf of Town of Stony Plain, congratulations on your election to the board. I believe at the last AGM, which was a couple weeks ago, you were elected to represent Alberta in this or so.
Yeah, thank you. There's each province has one CAO representative on the board, and I was lucky enough to win the Alberta seat to represent the CAOs here. And I would actually give a lot of credit to your CAO for encouraging me to run and for being my campaign manager, of which he assures me that he only used ethical campaign tactics throughout the course of the, you do what you got to do to win, so.
All right, well, thank you for being here, and go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Troy, councillors, staff, ladies and gentlemen. As you mentioned, my name is Troy Fleming. I'm here today as the new CAMA board representative for Alberta, and then many of you do know me as a city manager for the city of Fort Saskatchewan. For reference, CAMA stands for the Canadian Association of Municipal Administrators. CAMA is a national not-for-profit organization representing a network of municipal professionals in senior management positions. So for your equivalent, it would be your CAO and your general managers are eligible to be members. We have close to 1,000 members across Canada, and we work hard to provide networking, professional development, recognition, and information sharing to help champion excellence in municipal administration. I'm pleased to represent CAMA today to present the town of Stony Plain with the Municipal Inspiring Workplace Award. Each year, CAMA honors excellence in municipal administration through the annual awards program, recognizing achievements in 4 areas: innovation, environmental leadership and sustainability, inspiring workplace, and collaboration with external organizations. These awards celebrate local governments and their chief administrative officers for creative and successful programs, projects, or services. The awards program promotes professional excellence in municipal administration, sharing success stories to inspire new ideas among CAMA members and other local governments for implementation within their own communities. Given Canada's diverse communities, the diversity of our communities, the awards are categorized by population. And this year there was 54 high-quality nominations. The evaluation criteria include innovation, creativity, impact on municipal administration, transferability to other local governments, impact on the municipality and the organization, and the sustainability and long-term effects. The Municipal Inspiring Workplace Award recognizes a forward-thinking and people-first employer that has demonstrated leadership in creating an inspiring and positive work environment for its employees that enhances employee engagement, job satisfaction, and overall well-being. Recipients who've won this award embrace positive human resources practices that help build a resilient organization and demonstrate strong leadership practices that guide the municipality. This year's winner of the Municipal Inspiring Workplace Award for the municipality with a population under 20,000 is the town of Stony Plain for your Creating an Inspiring Workplace Through Leadership Excellence initiative. I do want to thank Tom Golden, Teresa Olson, and Heather Bell for being in attendance at the CAMA conference recently to accept this award. And just personally, I also want to thank Tom Golden, your CAO. He's well known for being the longest serving CAO in the region, and I'm the second longest, and he's got several years on me, so which is a tremendous accomplishment in our industry. And he's also well known as being a mentor for people like myself and all the other new CAOs in the region. So you're really lucky to have him, and I just want to thank him for everything he's done for me over the years and congratulate the town of Stony Plain on a well-deserved award for your inspiring workplace.
Definitely thank you for those words and kind of the highlighting the award and what it means. I think our staff have benefited from Tom's leadership as well, and our organization has grown and developed, and our community has also seen the benefits of it. CEO, like to make comments?
Thank you, Your Worship. I think we have a video we can display that was presented at the CAMA conference, so I think we're going to throw that up right now.
Okay, go ahead. Okay, appreciate it. And definitely, yeah, if you can forward the link to members of council so we can have that preview and have that look. And just with every meeting that we've attended in the last few years, technology is great and it's your friend when it works properly, and when it's not, we all sit there and twiddle our thumbs and like, what do we do next? But thank you for that little pivot there, and we will have that sent out to us later. So right now, if I can just have Troy and our staff just do a quick picture. So we'll just take a quick recess while we'll take a picture then. Thank you. All right, welcome back. We'll just took the opportunity to take a picture with our staff and definitely recognize them for their hard work. Definitely incredible. It is something that personally myself and members of council has seen through our organization, the development of our managers and directors and just our staff in general. So thank you very much for that. Members of council, moving on to agenda 4.2, which is the TransAlta Tri-Leisure Center grant support. Welcome, Lenny.
Good afternoon, Your Worship, members of council. Appreciate the time on your agenda this evening to bring forward a request for conditional approval of funding to support an application for the Active Communities Initiative grant through the Government of Alberta. So the Active Communities Initiative grant was initiated last year by the Government of Alberta. It's a matching grant similar to other grants through the government. However, this one has a higher top end than previous grants with a maximum value of $1.5 million for the matching. As with other grants, as mentioned, GOA funding cannot exceed 50% of the total of the project cost. This year's grant deadline is June 30th, with a decision on the applications being anticipated November of 2025. As part of our 2026 infrastructure budget, the TLC is anticipating the replacement of air handling unit number 1, along with the replacement of numerous pumps, all which are within our aquatic facility. Given the uniqueness of our funding model and our timelines for approval of budgets, I had a discussion with a representative from ACI, and they indicated that having a conditional motion from all 3 councils supporting their matching portion of the grant of the project would strengthen our application and would allow us to consider the funding confirmed versus unconfirmed. The TLC Board of Directors has supported our long-term capital and infrastructure plan, which sees these two projects in 2026 and also supports our grant application. I'm here this evening to request conditional approval of the town's portion of funding required for this grant. A bit more about the scope of project of this application. Air handling unit number 1 is our main air handling unit in the Aquatic Center and is nearing end of life. We have worked with engineers on the design and spec package of this unit and have received pricing from a cost consultant, and currently the project is estimated to be just under $2.9 million. This was inclusive of known impacts of current tariffs. However, we know that that can change at any moment. As well, to correspond with the replacement of their air handling unit, due to the lengthy closure of the replacement of this unit, we look forward to a number of years ahead, and there was numerous pumps that were scheduled to be replaced over the next 3 years, and we're proposing to complete all of this work during this extended closure with the hopes of avoiding any lengthier closures in future years, and so hoping to shorten our closure in the Aquatic Center, which we do every year. But these pumps would not be part of that package anymore, and so we're hoping to reduce that reduction of closure time. So the two projects together are just over $3.1 million, and so we're putting together this grant application with the hopes of having 50% of that funded, or nearly 50% of that funded by the Government of Alberta. In looking at the municipal contributions of the $1.5 million, based on the current split, the town of Stony Plain would be responsible for $372,000 of the $1.5 million. Next steps, after this evening, I'll be presenting similar presentation to the City of Spruce Grove on June 23rd and Parkland County on June 24th. We are currently working on the grant application and we'll have it ready prior to the deadline. I will be back again in September, as per usual, to request our 2026 budget, of which these two items will be part of that budget presentation, and we'll be as well requesting our operating and other capital infrastructure items at that time. We're also anticipating, as I mentioned before, that the results of this application would be known in early November, which is ahead of typical budget approval. With that, that concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions council may have.
Okay. Thank you for the presentation, and definitely it's always good to get ahead of the ball. And I think you said the application deadline is June 30th. That's still a little bit of time, but I think we should have started this a little while ago, but I'm glad it's here now. Members of the council, questions for clarity and understanding? Councillor Meyer, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Lenny, for your presentation. I'm just curious, in the event that we didn't receive the grant funding, can you speak to Plan B?
So these two projects will be part of our 2026 budget ask. So we would be back in chambers in September with our full budget request. These are a part of that, so in the unlikely, or in the event that it's not approved, the full ask would be made of the three municipalities to fund the entire project.
Okay. Thank you. So just to tie on to that question there, as you mentioned that we will not know if we were successful in getting the grant till November 25. If we're not successful, and that's part of the capital plan, so then the town's portion would be $744,000. Is that close?
For these two projects, correct. I mean, and again, it's part of our overall ask, and so the total budget, we're still working on draft of our budget of capital infrastructure, but the significant portion of it, there wouldn't be a lot in addition to these two projects being requested for 2026.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councilor Laurie.
Thank you, Your Worship, and appreciate the presentation, and GM Richer. Just to add to that, this is in line with the previous capital plan that was brought forward through our administration. So this has been something that's been worked into the capital plan, that's been worked into our budgets over the years. The TLC's done a little bit of work over the last about 6 months or so, a little bit of rejigging of the capital plan that actually has improved, I would say, the ebbs and flows into the municipal budgets. And so this was an opportunity that was brought forward to the TLC board, to which I'm a representative of, in where we had the ability to hopefully, I got a lot of tinny on my microphone, that's Apologies for that. An opportunity to reduce the amount that was originally going to be requested in the capital from all three municipalities. So it was something that the TLC board felt very appropriate to move forward as quickly as possible, given the grant deadline of June 30th. And we felt that it was appropriate that the motions from the municipal councils be received in order to strengthen that application and frankly try and save all three municipal owners $1.5 million.
Thank you much, Councilor Laurie. Any other questions for clear and understanding? Councilor Pacheco, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Lenny. Always nice to see you thinking about what the total project cost is going to affect each municipality. Also, glad to see that you're looking for other alternatives to it. I'm just curious, over the years, I'm guessing that this is something that has been planned as a replacement. What is in the capital reserve fund for a part of this replacement?
Your Worship, through you to Councillor Pacheco and the rest of council. We don't typically plan for reserves as part of our funding. Currently, our restricted reserve is at about $580,000, I believe, and part of the project will be a required deposit for the ordering of this unit if everything was approved, and we're anticipating requesting the board approval as well as the municipal approval to use funding for the deposit out of our restricted reserve. Because of the timelines of the lead time required for this type of a unit is about 27 weeks. It's anticipated we'd have to make the purchase in late 2025, and so rather than coming back and asking for more money from council, we would be requesting to use our reserves to fund that deposit.
Okay, thank you. Any follow-up? Any other questions for clear and understanding? Councillor Hansard, Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, General Manager Reichert. I appreciate that you came to talk to us this evening. Just for the general public and to remind those on council, there are 2 air handling units on the TLC for the aquatic section. Is that correct?
No, just the one, massive,
Just the one?
very, very large air handling unit.
Okay.
That you can see from the highway.
Okay. And would that normally have come about this time, at this time anyway? And this just seemed like a really good opportunity because there's this rather large grant possibility to help with those expenses? Or did you move up the timing that in other words, the air handling unit is doing pretty good, but you're going to have to replace it soon, so you thought it would be a good idea to take advantage of this now? Is that what we're seeing here?
Your Worship, through you to Councillor Hansard and the rest of council. This replacement is in our current long-term capital plan to be done in 2026. This grant funding was just formally, the timelines for application were just released about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and so that's why it seems like it's a last-minute nature request, but we're definitely taking advantage of every grant opportunity that we can. Should this one not be successful, we would also then next year apply for the CFEP grant, which the timeline or the deadline is already passed for this year, but we've made confirmation that we can actually apply for both if the need is there.
Okay, very good. And may I ask one other question, Mr.
Go ahead
Mayor?
there, Deputy Mayor.
I really appreciate that that your board, that you are on top of this so you can keep us aware of these things that would ultimately save all 3 municipalities who are the ownership group of the TLC the money. So thank you for your good work on that. And also understanding that you don't keep your own reserves, so when things like this come up, you don't have big list of reserves. You must come back to the ownership municipalities and ask for assistance with these things, correct?
Your Worship, through you to Councillor Hansard and the rest of council, that's correct. The only time we do experience a reserve situation if projects have come in under budget or if we've had a surplus in any given operational year, then the memorandum of agreement spells out how those contributions to the reserves are made, but we don't budget for reserves as part of our budgeting process.
Okay. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for the answers. Any other? I think I had Councillor Laurie, your hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was just going to provide clarity on the reserves as per Councillor Pacheco's question, but I believe we just had the answer for that.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for clarity and understanding? Okay, Councillor Anderson, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the presentation this evening. Just a question for clarity. You had mentioned the possibility of applying for a CFEP grant. Excuse me, and it sounded like you said there was eligibility there as well. Just to clarify, though, it's sort of an either-or scenario. We're not able to double up with the Active Communities grant and the CFEP grant.
Your worship, through to Councillor Anderson and the rest of council, that's correct. However, even if we were successful for ACI, we would likely still go after a CFEP grant next year to cover other items in the capital infrastructure budget. I was able to confirm through the ACI staff that they, from their perspective, we can apply for both grants as long as the total amount awarded by both grants doesn't exceed 50% of the total project cost. So there'd be more than, we have more on the table than this, and so we'd be, if we were successful with ACI, we would likely still go after CFEP funding for other projects. If we were unsuccessful with ACI next year in the budget cycle, anticipating if this project was approved without ACI, we would still go after CFEP next year.
Yeah, and perfect, and I do appreciate that with the understanding of the 50% of the total project cost, that there would be some additional capital projects that would take advantage of the CFEP side. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Any more questions for clarity and understanding? Thank you for the presentation, and thank you for bringing this forward. And definitely, as you mentioned, you know, the criteria for this grant opened up 3 weeks ago. So this is what happens when boards are prepared. They have long-range capital plans. They know what they're looking for to replace. So when a grant does open up and the window to apply is short, we do have organizations within our community, like the TLC, that take advantage of that. And as mentioned earlier by Councillor Plechko, that you know, if we receive the grant, well, that is less the municipal dollars that are required. So definitely thank you for bringing that forward, and I look forward to supporting the motion later on. Okay. Right, that ends our presentation. So moving on to number 5 of our agenda is statutory public hearings. We have nothing scheduled tonight. So moving on to the adoption of council minutes. And this is for the RCM of May 26. Councillor Anderson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move that Town Council approve the May 26, 2025 regular council meeting minutes as presented this evening.
Okay, thank you. Members of council, you had the opportunity to read them. Any errors, omissions, or questions on those minutes? Okay. See none. I did not see any errors or spelling mistakes, which is really good. I did watch the YouTube of this a little bit later. I think it was about a week after this, so I definitely appreciate members of council to kind of fill in and pull up your bootstraps while Deputy Mayor Hansard and myself were gone and not available for the meeting. I'm definitely looking forward to some of the highlights from the fees and charges about maybe different receptacles, or how did you say that, Councillor Lori? The differences of receptacles? Oh, I don't know, it was a while ago when I watched it, but yes, we're talking about different...
Alternate residential waste receptacle
yes,
options.
that's exactly what I did hear it. I just couldn't figure it out together, but definitely look forward to that presentation from administration later, because I do believe many of us have heard you know, different comments from our residents, and to be able to provide a different opportunity for them is a good thing, so we'll definitely look forward to that. Okay. With that, I don't see any more errors, so I'll call the question. All in favor? Okay. And that is carried. Moving on to number 7 of our agenda, which is council boards and committee minutes. Today we have 4, which is 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, and 7.4. So that is the growth in commerce from March 19th, Stony Plain Library from April 16th, Special Growth in Commerce Committee from April 17th, and also the Planning Advisory Committee on May 7th. Councillor Lori with the motion to accept, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move that Town Council receive the council board and committee minutes for information.
Okay. Thank you, appreciate that. And definitely there's, members of council, there are 4 sets of minutes here, so any questions, comments, and questions for clarity and understanding on any of those 4? Okay, seeing none, I do have a question to Councilor Plechko as a member of the Stony Plain Public Library Board. So on page 27 of our agenda, just trying to get some clarity here. Under number 1, it says, so number 2, it says the First Amendment was the removed, number 9, which is the trustee-only session. However, if I go down to page 30, and under number 6, there is a trustee-only session. So if there was an amendment to remove the trustee-only session, why was there a trustee-only session?
So I had the same question for myself. I've sent that over to our library. I will send you out an email once I have the answer to that question. I can't answer that.
Okay, thank you. I just found that kind of a little bit weird, but thank you. I definitely appreciate that follow-up. And then another question in terms of the conversation that we've had through the council chambers regarding the minutes is I'm also looking at page 30. I believe that's page 30. Yes, page 30. So again, a little bit later on, the library board dealt with the compensation philosophy policy, which is good. I think that's where it should be dealt with, and the board should take care of it. But back in April, and at our RCM, when we were looking at the February 19th Stony Plain Library Board's minutes, that was pulled out. And the answer that I asked the question why that was pulled out, and the answer was that because not all members of the board were present. And then also, as in Councillor Loynes kind of clarified, was so all present, because all members of the board were present, but one was virtual. And the answer to that was that the library board wanted everybody in person to deal with it. But however, on this minutes, I believe that there are 2 members of the board missing. So just, unless I missed something in there, but from what I asked earlier to what it was kind of given to me and to what I've read, they don't line up.
So we've had discussions about that in the past, and what we've decided is that not every board member can be at a board all the time, and we need to move the programs forward, so that's why we're getting that now.
Okay.
You will see going forward that that won't be a reason that we choose not to move something forward.
Yes, 100%, and I think that's a very wise move of the library board, as we've seen just the previous regular council meeting agenda topic. You know, Deputy Mayor and myself were not here, but we continued on because we can't always have all members of the board present. So, thank you for that clarity. Okay, and then any other questions for clear understanding from members? Okay, see none. I'll call the question. All in favor? Okay. And that is carried. Okay, moving on to number 8 is where we have bylaws, and we have nothing scheduled tonight, so thank you for members of council to deal with the bylaws last time. So moving on to number 9, which is our business items. So 9.1 is the business item for the Alta Tri Leisure Center, and that coincides with the presentation that was presented earlier. Go ahead, administration.
Your Worship, members of council, we don't have anything to add as Mr. Richer left a few moments ago. If you have any questions that have popped up in the meantime, certainly can try to answer those, or I can take note of them and send them back over to Mr. Richer and get a response back for you. Administration does support the motion. Again, it would be conditional related to the grant, but as Mr. Richer did identify, they will be back in September, and you'll see the full breadth of their infrastructure, capital and operational components of their annual ask of the town of Stony Plain.
Okay, thank you. Members of council, any questions for clarity and understanding? Okay. Just one question for clarity for myself. So in terms of this recommendation to approve $372,000 to the TLC, which I fully support and understand. So in terms of that approval, if council approves it tonight, so when the TLC comes and does their presentation in September, they'll just automatically reduce the 372 from the ask, because that's already been given to them this year. So it will not be going forward into the 2026 budget cycle.
Your Worship and members of council, as Mr. Richer did identify, the grant confirmation would be in November. My anticipation would be there would be some language related to them applying for that particular grant. We do approve a budget. We do go through our own corporate plan process. We likely should have an understanding if that grant was achieved, and likely that would adjust our corporate plan numbers prior to council approval. If not, there could be the scenario where we're approving the full fund, as would Parkland County and the City of Spruce Grove, and prior to, it could be a spring adjustment, or it could be something that happens when we approve our taxation rate. The adjustment could be done at that point too. So there's about 3 spots where if the grant's not known, or if they go down another avenue to try and get additional funding, there's three locations where I think the town of Stony Plain would have an opportunity to lower if a grant was to come in after an approval of our corporate plan process.
Okay, thank you for that clarity. Members of council, any other questions and comments? Okay, seeing none, I'll go to Councillor Meyer for the motion, please.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. The Town Council approved $372,000 in funding to the TransAlta Tri-Leisure Centre for the replacement of the air handling unit and aquatic pumps in 2026.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Meyer. Members of council, any questions, comments, and debate on the motion? See none, I will support the motion. And definitely, we've all heard some of the issues that have happened at the TransAlta Tri-Leisure Centre and the patchwork that has been done, and this has been identified as a corporate capital plan that's to be replaced in 2026. So this is very timely for the TransAlta Tri-Leisure Centre to be able to apply for this grant. So cross your fingers and hopefully that they get something out of this. We'll call the question. All in favor? And that is carried. Okay, moving on to 9.2, and we're looking at the Transportation Asset Management Update. Go ahead, Administration.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. I just want to speak briefly before the infrastructure engineer gives his presentation on this topic. As many of you will recall, we began this journey in 2020 by establishing a baseline for our pavement quality index. At the time, it was the administration's first steps toward what has since become a much broader and more strategic approach to our asset management. Tonight's presentation will show that we've made meaningful progress since that initial assessment. While we can see that we have more to do, we are moving in the right direction, and that's something to be very proud of. This is a long-term effort, and real change takes time. But I want to take a moment to recognize the commitment of council, our staff, and the entire team to getting us to this point. I'm excited to where we're heading, and I hope tonight's presentation gives you confidence that we're on the right path.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight I'll be presenting on an update on the progress to the town's transportation asset management. To start off, we'll go over a refresher on asset management principles. Next, we'll dive into 3 specific asset classes, which the update will focus on, those being the pavement network, trail network, and the sidewalk network. Lastly, I'll discuss what's next in our transportation asset management journey, and of course, at the end, there will be time for questions. So this figure should be familiar as it's from our 2022 asset management update. What we've established are 4 levels of asset maturity to help us track our progress and goals across different asset classes. A level 1 asset is where we have an understanding of the asset's inventory. At level 2, we've conducted condition assessments and have specific key performance indicators. Level 3 is where we have strong enough tools and data sets to understand and predict that asset's life cycle. And then lastly, level 4 is where we have established methods of prioritization to help drive our capital planning. So with that, let's focus on our first asset class, which is the pavement network. Pavement management is the practice of optimizing the condition of a road network while maximizing dollar value. In other words, is about choosing the right treatment for the right road at the right time. In order to understand when to apply what treatment to what road, the town has established a robust approach consistent with industry standards and has built up its data sets to support these processes. In the last update to council back in 2022, we discussed these pavement management philosophies more in detail, getting into treatment types and prediction models. We also had an overview of our pavement management software and our ground penetrating radar. In this presentation, we're going to keep our focus to our most recent condition assessment, as our philosophy and our approach has not changed. The first condition assessment was conducted in 2020. Generally, these condition assessments are completed every 3 to 5 years. In 2024, the town hired Tetra Tech to complete its second cycle of condition assessments to our paved network. And although Tetra Tech is a different company than the one used in 2020 with slightly different technology, they followed the same standardized condition rating methodology as the 2020 assessment, allowing the town to maintain consistency and have direct comparisons between assessments. The condition assessment collected data on 3 key performance indicators. The visual condition index is a measure of the surface distress of the roadway, or in other words, how cracked the pavement is. This is collected with a laser crack measurement system that scans the roadways while driving at the posted speeds. The ride comfort index is a measure of the bumpiness of the roadway, which is collected using the inertial profiling system as seen in the top right image. And then lastly, the structural adequacy index is a measure of the strength of the road structure, collected with a falling weight deflectometer, which works by dropping a weight on the roadway and using the resulting deflections to calculate a strength value. And then together, all 3 key performance indicators are used to calculate the pavement quality index, an overall measure of the pavement's condition where 1 is a failed roadway and 100 is a brand new roadway. The results of the 2024 condition assessment are on the right-hand side of the slide, along with a comparison to the 2020 results. Our pavement network has a pavement quality index average of 58, which is a 3-point increase since 2020. A large increase can be seen, or a large improvement can be seen in the arterial functional class, which is due to the town prioritizing rehabilitation projects such as 49th Avenue and Golf Course Road to ensure that these high-volume roadways are maintained at an acceptable level of service. You might notice a large decrease in the PQI for the lane network. This is partially due to the annual deterioration, but it's also important to note that there was a slight change in the data processing to lanes and select local roadways. This change has resulted in a lower calculated PQI, and therefore it's not a perfect apples-to-apples comparison between the 2024 and 2020 results. Here is a map of our current pavement condition, green being good, red being poor. You can see that our older neighborhoods are in the worst shape, which makes sense as they've had the time to deteriorate. Overall, our arterial network is in good shape, and the collector and local network are requiring further investment. Moving on to the next asset class, which is our asphalt trail network. In 2021, the town looked to complete its first trail condition assessment. After reviewing existing condition assessment methodologies, the town adopted the PASER process for its trails. PASER is a methodology used to visually assess road surface conditions. And because trails are essentially small roads with respect to the way they are constructed, the town took the methodology and modified it so that it's a simple and repeatable process that can be completed internally every 3 years. The condition rating system works on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the best and 1 being the worst. So here's an image of a rating of 9, which is considered excellent. Here is a rating of 5, which is considered fair and starting to show medium or a few high-severity defects. And here is a rating of 1, where the surface integrity is gone and the trail is considered failed. In 2024, the town completed its second cycle of trail condition assessments, and on the screen are the results. Of the approximately 45 kilometers of asphalt trail, the majority of the network is currently in the 5 to 7 range, which is between fair and good. Although there is only a small percentage of the trail network in the poor and very poor range, it's important that the town continue to invest in replacing these trail sections as their condition introduces risk to active transportation users. Moving on to our last asset class of discussion, the sidewalk network. In 2022, the town reviewed multiple existing methodologies for assessing sidewalk conditions. The ADI method, or Asset Damage Index, was identified to suit the town best as it's efficient and repeatable, meaning internal staff can complete the assessment every 4 to 5 years. The ADI condition assessment works by evaluating medium and high severity defects and their extent across individual 6-meter segments. The assessment process rates sidewalks on a scale from 1 to 5, 5 being very good and 1 being very poor. On the screen, you can see examples of each rating. The condition assessment took 2 years to complete and was completed in 2023. Moving forward, it's expected that a network assessment will only require 1 year. This time it took 2 just due to the initial setup of the system. On the screen are the results of the assessment. Of approximately 98 kilometers of sidewalk, the large majority of sidewalks in town are in the good to very good condition. That being said, there's only a small portion of segments in the poor to very poor condition. Sidewalk replacement has a high cost, and it will take continued investments to replace this portion of the network, as well as keep up with the rest of the network, which will eventually deteriorate from the fair to the poor condition. This takes us to the summary of our asset management update and what steps the town will be taking to continue progressing in transportation asset management. So bringing things back to those levels of asset maturity, we now have a strong inventory data set for all 3 pavement, trail, and sidewalk asset classes. We have established our condition rating methodologies and have completed at least 1 cycle of assessments for each asset. When it comes to life cycle projections, it's pretty simple for trails and sidewalks, as we deal with these on a worst first approach, meaning no life cycle extending treatments are applied. Roads, on the other hand, while we have a strong means of completing life cycle projections, we do want to flag that with this second cycle of condition ratings, we can now go back and validate our deterioration models. And then lastly, we are at a point where we are efficiently conducting prioritization methods and using these to create our capital programs. There is room for improvement across all asset classes, as once we get an asset management specialist, we can start creating individual asset management plans. And in these plans, we can start establishing targeted levels of service, which can be used to drive budget recommendations. In regards to what's next, we didn't get into bridges in this presentation, but we do have an established bridge condition system, and we are about to conduct our second cycle of assessments this year. While conducting the 2024 pavement condition assessment, our consultant also collected 360-degree LiDAR of the town's road right-of-ways. With this data, we're able to use machine learning to extract our sign inventory, which the town is just in the process of receiving from the consultant. Also in the 2024 pavement condition assessment scope, included was the assessment of paved town-owned parking lots, which is underway this week. And then lastly, as mentioned, the next steps for all asset classes will be to compile our data, financial needs, and goals into individual asset management plans. That concludes the presentation. At this time, we're happy to answer questions.
Thank you for the presentation, and definitely very informative, and for members of the council and to our residents as well. Definitely good to see those reports and those diagrams out there, so that it's very easy for members of council to kind of direct our residents to see which part of town they live in, and what are we prioritizing. Definitely the ones that need the most work, which are in the poor condition, the red, will always get the most attention. So thank you for that. Members of council, questions for clarity and understanding? Councillor Anderson, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and excuse me, thank you for the presentation this evening. I have a couple of lines of questioning. The first relates to establishing an acceptable story level of surface, and that's noted a couple of times throughout the presentation and in the lead sheet. Just curious if there is an industry standard. You sort of talked about looking at some of the methodology and so on that's out there. When we're looking at establishing something internally for our own municipality, is there an industry standard that we can consider when we start to make that determination moving forward?
Through your worship, to Councillor Anderson, thank you for the question. When it comes to industry standard targeted levels of service, there aren't quite any widely accepted target. It's more dependent on the municipality. That being said, when we're talking about pavement quality index, there was a study done in 2017 showing that the average was 65 throughout Alberta municipalities. When discussing levels of service, and especially in the asset management plans, it's more about the level of acceptable risk. If we target a lower acceptable of service, there are things that will exist, such as tripping hazards across our trails and our sidewalk network, that we have to be okay with. So it's different by municipality, and that recommendation comes at the timing of developing those asset management plans.
Thank you for that, and certainly the risk is actually the second line of questioning I had, but I do want to stick with this one for a second here, and just maybe some comments from administration, whether it's yourself or the general manager, on our current approach to remediating and repairing pavement within the community. So when we look at, some of the mapping, certainly there are various areas of the community that are in similar states of disrepair, if you will. What's the approach that we're taking today in terms of remediating and improving that pavement quality around town?
Okay, go ahead. Through your worship, to Councillor Anderson, thank you for the question. When it comes to pavements or the road networks, the approach isn't necessarily to risk. The approach is more so juggling between priorities. So we don't take the worst first approach when it comes to pavements, because it's also important to keep our good roads good. A road reconstruction, which is a treatment applied to a road at the end of its life cycle, is magnitudes more expensive and more impactful to road users due to the construction time it takes than a restoration treatment or a preservation treatment, which would be applied earlier in the road's life cycle. So our approach isn't to go out and rebuild every single red road on that map. Our approach is to balance our investments between select very poor roads while also applying those preservation and restoration treatments.
Okay. Councillor Anderson?
Yeah, thank you for that. Does the underground infrastructure, for example, come into play when we're looking at this? So certainly, not only are we looking at the roads, but what goes on underneath the roads. And we have talked a couple of times this term about our water mains and so on. How does that play into the decision around road maintenance and repair?
Through your worship to Councillor Anderson, thank you for the question. The life cycle of peripheral assets plays a huge part in determining our future road candidates. The master plans throughout town, so water, sanitary, storm, the transportation safety program, the condition of our sidewalks that are adjacent to our roads, all of those is considered when developing our plans. When it comes to our road programs, most roads that are undergoing restoration or rehabilitation treatments are CCTV'd, or the underground utilities, I should say, are CCTV'd or inspected prior. So the last thing we would want to do is apply a treatment to that road and then come in within the next 5 years or more and cut it up and trench it to replace those utilities. You can see examples of this with our current project, the reconstruction on 43rd Street, where we've aligned road rehabilitation needs with the underground life cycles, as well as our transportation safety program, as well as our water master plan upgrades.
Thank you for that. And actually, this is just opening up a really, for me anyway, good line of questioning. And so you had mentioned some CCTV type tools that are able to be utilized to look at the condition of the underground infrastructure as part of an overall asset management program. And maybe to the general manager, or I was going to say, or the CAO, but looks like he stepped out for a moment. Are there any plans in the works, or would there be any desire for us to look at an overall asset management plan that does similar to we've done with the pavement quality? CCTV, I think, was the acronym. Do that closed circuit television for all of our underground infrastructure and utilities as well.
Through your worship to Councillor Anderson, Noel Council, the answer is yes. We are actually working on condition rating our underground as well. As I've mentioned to council in previous meetings, there's the underground is the underground assets, so the water, the sanitary, the storm are the ones that will take the longest for us to complete. The town does do a certain amount of underground cammering of the storm and sanitary assets each year, and in the last, I'd say in the last couple of years, we've been really focused on trying to get through the entire network. It takes a couple of years to do all of it because it's a resource-intensive exercise. We have to access the underground. There's only a couple of companies in the region that do this work under specialty, and it can get quite expensive. So we do it in chunks. The water infrastructure as well, we do have, we can't go into the water lines, so to speak, to inspect them, so we do use other information, record drawings, information that our staff on the back end here have been going diligently through the last couple of years through our records, understand when things were built, what it was built with, because that allows us to perform some high-level analysis. We also use information from our operations staff when there might be breaks or things that they can report back that confirm what we know, and we can use that information to plot out where those risks might be going. Where I'm going with this is where we do use that information with what we have with the information presented tonight to make decisions on where to recommend rehabilitations, knowing that we can't do everything all at once. We do evaluate several different things like that has been presented tonight, so that we can methodically and deliberately move our resources around and get things done.
Certainly appreciate the conversation from both of you this evening, and I think it's good for residents to be aware that there is a big picture conversation happening, sort of behind the scenes, so to speak, and that not just the roadways themselves, but the underground infrastructure is being considered, and how we can best manage tax dollars to ensure that residents continue to have the infrastructure that they need for our community. With that, Mr. Mayor, I did have another question, but I'll defer for the time and jump back in a few minutes.
Okay, thank you for your questions and definitely the answers from administration. It's definitely warranted to let our residents know that our administration does take in underground infrastructure and kind of cost analysis to consideration. We're not just going to repave a road so it looks nice and clean, but yet 2 years later have to rip it up to change the water line. So definitely sometimes it's communicating that message of that the road's going to be in that condition for a couple extra years while we get ready to do the underground replacement before we can do the top coat. So thank you for that. Members of council, any questions for clarity and understanding? Councilor Plechko.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to refer to page 66 of 82. When we're talking about the concrete, you made reference a couple of times in your presentation that it's very costly to repair and redo concrete. Is there other considerations that you look at when you're doing the assessment of concrete? Is there a possibility of asphalt being replaced in some of the areas at a lower cost? Or is it just because we have current sidewalks, we get replaced with current sidewalks?
Through your worship to Councillor Plechko, for my clarity for your question, you're asking if we would employ using asphalt to cover broken sidewalks to save some. No, okay, thank you. So
I'm not asking to cover the sidewalks. I'm asking if the cost associated, because you talked about the cost associated with replacing the concrete was costly. So if we replace the concrete with asphalt or some other alternative, is it as costly or is it less costly? And is there other alternatives besides concrete to be put down?
Oh, thank you for the clarification, Councillor Plechko. Through your worship to all Councillor Plechko and all of council, the short answer is yes, asphalt is a cheaper product that we could employ, and occasionally we will if we can. One of the challenges that the crews face, as well as for planning projects, is we have a number of sidewalks that are monolithic in town. That is, that they have the curb and gutter attached to the sidewalk. So when we have situations like separate sidewalks, they're more easily just straight replaced and are generally cheaper to do. When we have the monolithic sidewalks where we have to replace the curb and the sidewalk at the same time, we're unable to just remove the sidewalk at that point. And sometimes we have to go a little bit into the road as well. So that does drive the costs up. It can drive the costs up. It can limit how many kilometers of sidewalk we can do each year. But again, as the engineer was mentioning, we do take that into consideration. But there's also things that are brought to our attention that are issues through our operations that we have to find a way to deal with. So we employ things like if there's trip hazards, we may shave the trip hazard itself. We may employ some grout filling where we can with different materials because it's just, that would be a cheaper alternative. So we do look for those where we can and try and avoid doing more costly endeavors if we don't have to. But ultimately, by and large, those things will be more expensive over time.
Thank you for the clarity.
Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just going to refer us to page 56, if I could, please.
Okay.
I was quite surprised to see this. This is the PQI Pavement Quality Index, that we only have three places, one off of Campbell Drive, two in the Umbach Road area, 4 in St. Andrews. St. Andrews is my neighborhood, where we have very poor pavement quality. When pavement falls into this area where it's got the red line on the map, does that indicate to us that that's going to be replaced pretty soon? Because with those few areas taken care of, the town would have some poor, but mostly fair, good, and very good pavement throughout the town. So can you suggest to us how that red ranking on the pavement quality index affects when it might get done?
Okay. Go ahead, Administration.
Through your worship to Councillor Hansard, thank you for the question. The few roads that you've noted that are in very poor condition, while they are the worst condition roads in town, I will note that the roads in poor condition from a public eye are considered to be very poor, regardless of our categorization here. For example, 43rd Street, if you're familiar with the condition of that road, that is sitting at about a PQI of about 30. So although it's in the poor condition, it is a complaint generator, that road specifically, that the public sees as very poor. In terms of prioritization, so one of your questions is the very poor roads, does that mean that they are up as candidates for rehabilitation in the near future? The short answer is not necessarily. A number of things are used to consider when conducting our capital planning. The backlog of roads that are in the very poor and poor condition is quite large, and the cost to do those road reconstructions is quite extensive. Therefore, we have to pick and choose where we invest those dollars, while also, as previously mentioned, juggling the reconstruction costs with the road preservation and restoration treatments, keeping those good roads good. So in terms of prioritization, the driver for those would usually be the underground utility life cycle to come in and get into these kind of smaller local roads, which are the current ones in those very poor condition.
Okay, and may I ask a supplemental?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I looked at all of these areas here on this particular map, and I realized some of them are tucked away. They're not very heavily used roads except by the people in the neighborhood and their visitors. Where other roads, like I live right on 44th Avenue, that was getting in serious need of some attention, and that was taken care of I think it was last year or the year before. So does where the road is and how much use it gets affect the decisions that have to be made? Because I realize the taxpayers paying for this, there's only so many dollars to put into certain projects, and the roads are one of many projects. Very important to us, because I think before we are looking at building new things, we have to also remember it's our responsibility to make sure that council allots the money to take care of of the infrastructure that we already have. So the amount of use that a road gets will affect when it is put on the list for, we're going to do that this year. That's a question.
Yes, go ahead, Administration.
Through your worship, the Councillor Hansard, thank you for the question. That is correct. What it's called is a road user cost to the road. So the volume of vehicles traveling on that road is one of many parameters that are considered. Indirectly, another thing that is considered is the impact to users should that road treatment be applied. So again, that's keeping those good roads good, especially for our arterial functional class and our collector functional class. If we were to apply a restoration treatment to a road that is in fair condition, it might take 3 weeks to complete. Versus if we were to let that road deteriorate, it might take a year to complete. And that might not seem so significant if we're talking for a local road, but if we're talking for an arterial road, let's say golf course road, that's going to have significant road user costs to that.
And your worship, through the Councillor Hansard, I'll just add, there's one distinction you might have noticed, council may have noticed over the last couple of years, is we've been able to address large sections of road relatively really quickly, and that's because the roads that were in question were in a bit of a perfect spot of just approaching that yellow part, a little below the yellow part of the condition, but also still able to be done with methods that weren't holistically impactful, that we had to shut the whole roads down. When we get into the inventory of roads that are in that poor and very poor state, more time is needed and more things need to be fixed. So for example, 43rd Street, that's been brought up, that's going to take 2 years for us to address through our road program. And so, and there's very good reasons to go into 43rd Street as the engineers noted. But we have to take into consideration how much time we're going to be spending in one location to be doing work, while other locations that we could maybe get more lane kilometers done. So these are balancing acts that administration does when we're recommending programs.
Great, thank you. And thank you for those questions, Deputy Mayor. That does provide a little clarity for us in terms of how our staff view it, and also for our residents. And so the PQI is a very good barometer, but it's also part of the equation as they take in and decide which capital projects are done first, second, and third. Thank you. Councillor Loynes.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to administration, going back to page 65, when we talk about the sidewalk conditions, I'm curious how accessibility plays into the condition of the sidewalk, and I'll elaborate on that a little bit more. We've talked about at a lot of this table where we talk about people in mobility need, and again, we don't really think about it until it affects us directly. So as of right now, I have a son who's currently in a wheelchair, and I didn't realize how some of our sidewalks have really bad lips on them before they reach the road. And so pushing my 100-pound child in a wheelchair isn't always something that's accessible. So when I look at the poor, fair, very poor conditions, where does accessibility and the road condition or sidewalk conditions for those type of users play into this?
Yeah. Go ahead, Administration.
Through your worship to Councillor Loynes, thank you for the question. So the condition ratings that were shown tonight are just a portion of the data that is collected. So when we go out and do the condition assessments, we're also tracking down trip hazards or vertical displacements between sidewalk panels, as well as any protruding valves, vegetation, that sort of thing, anything that will impact accessibility. So all of that is noted, and then after the condition assessment, that data is taken and given to our operations group. And as the General Manager of Planning and Infrastructure noted, alternative treatments besides replacement can and has been being used, such as shaving down those trip hazards or mudjacking existing panels up so that they're flush with the adjacent panels.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship, and let me just start by saying thank you, guys. I can see the tremendous amount of work that must have gone into collecting all this data, so I appreciate it, and I've been looking forward to this asset management update. Because I remember when we did the first road assessment, and then that was followed with a game plan of what was going to get fixed, and you could go out and tell people about that. So the trails. Now, I could just about tell you where, I spend a lot of time on the trails. I could just about tell you where all those pictures actually are. But anyhow, like I say, what I was really kind of looking forward to was when are we actually going to see some of those trails get fixed and whatnot. And I do see on the what's next, it says future plans. It's kind of left without a date, not even a year. I'm curious if administration can maybe let me know when I would be able to know when some of the trails are getting fixed.
Go ahead.
Through your worship to Councillor Myers. So in previous years, we have had continual funding for annual trail rehabilitation. Our 2023 program was focused in the McNabb Park. Our 2025 program is focused on Hall Park this year. Both those locations were driven by our condition assessment, as they were both determined to be some of the worst trails in town. Our current annual budget is $60,000 that we use towards those trail replacements.
Okay. Thank you. Any follow-up?
Yes, and thank you for that answer. And I was going to say, I think some of those pictures are from around Hall Park. Just in that regard, so if I were a resident, because I just wanted to be a resident and I wanted to know what was coming up, how would they go about finding that?
Through your worship to Councillor Myers, the best way would be to contact administration.
Okay, thank you.
That's good. And also, members of council can also provide that information through our corporate plan each and every year. There is list, as mentioned, that council approves the funding for. So that list could be there, but if there was no funding provided by council, then that list means nothing. So in terms of what's here is a good snapshot of some of the priority areas that will be looked at, and then follow, again, ask administration, and then also follow the corporate plan, as if more dollars are allocated to those areas, then more of those areas will get fixed. So I think that's one of the things that members of council have to be aware of. We do have great reports and studies, but there's also a limited amount of budgeting that we do for that. So if we want to see more done, then that's definitely a conversation during corporate plan to increase those budget line items for more repairs and maintenance of the three areas that we're talking about today. That's good. Councillor Plechko.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through to administration. Just staying with a bit of that theme on the pathway systems. I'm just curious, as we move through the budgetary systems and that as we move forward, I'm just wondering what consideration is the town taking when considering what we need for budgetary purposes? And I'll be specific. I think when the trails were created years ago, they were created for a walking path. Today, they've grown from a walking path to a bike path to now a mobility access path. And we see several mobility access machines within our community, much structured like a vehicle, somewhat quite a bit lighter. However, very tippy in the sense that they're 2 feet wide. When I look at the path that I see in front of us, the main one on page 61, somebody hits that. What is our liability with this path now becoming more of a mobility path than it is more of a walking path? And how do we restructure what we're doing as we move along to make these paths last longer for the ability of what we're putting on for traffic today?
Go ahead.
Your Worship, I'll maybe just jump in quickly on the liability, and the staff can speak to the structures or the back half of that question. So just to be, I guess, quick and brief, liability will not matter a whole lot versus somebody walking in for one reason or another, injuring or tripping or something, versus somebody on a bike, versus somebody on a skateboard, versus somebody on anything else for that matter. The liability will be similar for each method of, traveling, so to speak. So not a whole lot of difference there on the different methods.
Okay, anything else from administration?
Through your worship, thank you for the question. Previously mentioned, the individual asset management plans really flush out, or the purpose of them is to really flush out why the town is providing these services with respect to what are the customer levels of service that we're trying to meet. So when developing those asset management plans, the user function is highly considered. So you're referencing, say, electric scooters, for example. Those are used to determine or used in the discussion of establishing those levels of service at that stage.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Pletcher, anything else?
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm following you. First off, I can't hear you. If you could speak into the mic a little bit clearer. I'm not understanding. So as we move forward, specifically I'll use the picture that we're talking about of 61. We've seen over time overlays in certain areas of the path that just semi-fix what is there. But with the new use of all the paths within the community and the growing need for these to connect our community together, what type of infrastructure are we planning for down the road? So I get that you talk a tiny bit about what, the use is, but I don't see anywhere in this report that it talks about the growing new use of our paths and that.
Through your worship to Councillor Pletchko, thank you for the clarification. So a couple of things. When we're planning the rehabilitation projects or we're doing major maintenance projects, we're generally aiming at can we fix this to where it is right now, to make it work for the size it is, the use that we were intending. What the engineer was getting at was we do consider future uses or perhaps trends that we're seeing. For example, maybe one path is noted from some other information in town that we're seeing more bikers. We might be seeing more walkers in this location, or maybe we're seeing less is sometimes a consideration. It's not the biggest part of the consideration because normally what the condition will drive us to the location to talk about these things, and generally we'll try and blow up our view of the area and say, well, okay, this area might be connecting to here. We're seeing a lot of connection to downtown. We see how this is all going to work together. It's not just one thing. When possible, if it makes sense, we'll look at upgrades. One example was Oatway Park. I believe that was a mix of sidewalk and trails a couple of years ago, and we did upgrade that to a larger width trail, as well as did some other drainage improvements because the drainage wasn't fulfilling the needs of that location. So we do look at how to do more encompassing upgrades to the area when we can. But the general philosophy is we're going in there trying to make it good for its current use right now, considering what may be coming down in the future.
Okay, thank you. And I think that provides a little more clarity for myself as well. And it's a good question in terms of absolutely right. The trails were designed for certain usage, and now as similar to roads as cars get heavier and different things go on there. I think it was a good question. The question was like, at what point in time do we no longer repair and maintain what's there, but to tear up and rebuild wider and larger to accommodate that? And I think the general manager answered that in terms of the look at connectivity and usage plays a big role in that. So definitely, a pathway may be red, but if there's only a handful of people who use it, and another one is yellow or orange, I'm gonna say, but 1,000 people use it. Well, in terms of where the dollars need to be, definitely I would support repairing and maintaining the one that's yellow with 1,000 people using it daily versus something that's been used by one person a day. So that was good questions, comments. Moving on to any more questions for clarity and understanding? Since we're going around the shoe, we'll go back to Councillor Anderson. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. excuse me, always great when my colleagues sort of pick up on the question that I was going to ask. And so I'm going to follow sort of in the same vein as Councillor Meyer and Councillor Pletchko, and even the mayor sort of alluded to this here a few minutes ago. You know, we talked about not necessarily worst is first when it comes to the pavement quality index of our driving lanes, if you will, but am specifically looking at page 44 of our agenda package, and just towards the bottom of the page under figure 1, there's a line that reads, while the quantity of very poor trails are minimal, these segments pose a risk to the safe mobility of active transportation users. Now, to understand very poor, I went down to the chart, I believe it was page 61, and it has a 2 rating as very poor. And so jumping between those 2 pages, we're looking at just a little bit better than 500 meters. I think 538 or so is what I calculated. Rated here as a 1 being failed or 2 a very poor roadway, which poses, again, according to the report, a risk to the safe mobility of active transportation users. So, you know, with the consideration of, you know, not taking a worst first approach, but that there is potentially a safety hazard here. Sorry, I'm going to just carry on just a little bit. I think the number was 60,000 budgeted, which was mentioned a few minutes ago. But we also heard 2 areas of town, 2023 and 2025. And so I started to wonder, is this every second year that this money is allocated, or did it just take us a couple of years to do one area before we moved on to the next one? And so with all that being said, just looking for administration to clarify that a little bit, and to, if we can hear a bit of a plan for that 500 and some odd meters of very poor road that poses a risk to the safe mobility, and what that would take for us to remediate to a safe level of standard for our users.
Go ahead, administration.
Through your worship, to Councillor Anderson, thank you for the question. So as we are approaching trails with the worst first approach, those trails with ratings 1s and 2s will be addressed first. You mentioned that the quantity of trails in that 1 to 2 category are about 500 meters. So that would take approximately $150,000 to address those trails. As for the frequency of funding, our goal is to have a annually funded trail rehabilitation program. However, there have been the odd years where we did not move forward with that funding.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we have $60,000 in terms of a program, but it's not consistent based on other business need, or I guess when we have a program that we believe is funded to $60,000 a year, there would be that expectation that that program is funded to $60,000 a year. And I'm hearing that depending on what's going on, potentially that money is redirected. Would that be fair?
Through your worship, the Councillor Anderson and all the council, for clarity, there in 2023 there was 60,000, and I believe in 2024 I'm looking to confirm it was. 2024 did not have any funding through our capital planning. 2025 does, and it's now it is a consistent number that we've addressed through our capital planning. It is intended to be at a consistent yearly program.
So moving forward, certainly the community and council can expect that that $60,000 will be available for trail rehabilitation. And I do want to make that distinction because we do have a number of projects in our corporate plan that are new trail connections or trying to expand our active transportation network. But what we're talking about with the $60,000 that's been referenced would be specific to rehabilitation.
Correct. So to confirm, the $60,000 is to fix current trails, and then there's the active transportation plan that is to grow new trails.
Okay, appreciate that. Certainly appreciate the $150,000 number, looking at 500 meters, about $3,000 a meter is sort of what I'm hearing for that rehabilitation. Just wondering if there's any consideration being given to sort of tackle that, if you will, head on. Certainly when we hear that there is a risk to the safe mobility of our active transportation users, that's something that is a concern for me specifically, and I bet a number of my colleagues, because that's come up in their line of questioning this evening as well. And so, if we take $60,000, it's going to take at least 2.5 years with the continued deterioration of some of the other trails, and it feels like we're always going to be working from a place of deficit instead of being able to move forward. And so a bit of a loaded question there, I guess, but is $60,000 going to be sufficient to maintain an adequate level of repair to our trail system, or would a one-time investment to bring some of those very poor roads up to an acceptable standard be sufficient to help us maintain our trail repair program at $60,000 a year?
Through your worship to Councillor Anderson, all the council, appreciate the dialogue and questions. So a couple of things. Unlike roads, which generally have very specific road right-of-ways away from certain things, like certain elements like trees, trails can be more susceptible to things like tree roots, drainage issues, which if you want to go in and just replace the trail on its own, that is the per linear cost that you roughly calculated is about right. But to deal with sometimes the symptoms that are creating those issues, for one example, one notorious problem is tree roots. We don't want to take out trees. We want to try and make sure that we're minimizing any impact to the roots of the trees as well, and that can get quite expensive. On the same vein, those trails that people like to walk through that are nice and quite beautiful to walk through are full of them. And so we have to take consideration how we're going to protect the trees and maintain the sight lines and make the surface usable. So sometimes we'll employ different methods, such as individually cutting out certain sections to try and minimize the impacts. As I mentioned, Oatway, one example, had some drainage issues. Sometimes the trail itself isn't the most expensive part. We have to work with other programs, sometimes our storm LOS program or some other pertinent work that we'll try and tie together to try and address one single area. So from the perspective of the budgeting, administration puts forward budgeted things it can achieve each year for these for rehabilitating trails, and we do try and find, if we're finding other issues, we try and work with other areas, other divisions to try and minimize the impact while also maximizing the mobility within the area.
Thank you.
Yeah, and certainly appreciate all the extenuating factors similar to roads with the underground infrastructure that come into play for our trail system as well. And certainly I know some of the next steps here are about setting that acceptable level of standard and what that's going to look like, and maybe a conversation at some point for council down the road whether $60,000 is perceived to be enough to maintain our trail system at a level that we believe to be acceptable for the community. So certainly appreciate all the extenuating factors and all the considerations that come into play when we look at this. I think I'll stop there. Thank you.
Your Worship, just before we get 60,000 bored into all of our heads, I know that the upcoming projects are projecting more than that. So I just want to make sure we're not hung up on a $60,000 number, that's what's being allocated this year, but in future years that number does project out higher than that. So.
Okay, thank you for that clarity, Town Manager. Any more questions for clarity and understanding, members of council? Okay. I just have a question in terms of the sidewalk maintenance. I think with the roads and the trails, I think we've seen enough that at certain points in time you can fill the cracks in with tar, and other points of time there's been just a mill and pave, we're just skim the top and then fill it, and then some other roads conditions where we've actually shut down the road to actually rebuild the base and to rebuild that so it lasts longer, so it goes through the process. But in terms of sidewalks, I've walked a lot of sidewalks over the years. I don't see a lot of like filling in the sidewalks when it's cracked. Is that something that we don't do typically in terms of like maintenance? Usually the biggest thing that affects sidewalks and trails and roads is actually the cracks and water getting in the freeze-thaw cycle?
Through your worship, thank you for the question. It is not in our typical practice to crack fill sidewalks. The nature of the movement going on with the sidewalks makes it so that the crack fill is not a effective method of treatment.
Okay, so just because of the nature and the movement of the sidewalk, crack fill is not an option, so we just wait until it deteriorates for a replacement?
Through your worship, thank you for the question. As the General Manager of Planning and Infrastructure has mentioned, there are various treatments that we can apply, such as patching or grouting in the case of any large spalls, or shaving of the concrete or mud jacking of the concrete so that it is flush.
Your worship, I'll just add that for new sidewalks, on occasion during the warranty period, we will have sidewalks crack filled if they're in a very specific state. But generally through the work of the operations, we don't typically go out and crack fill older sidewalks as a general approach.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions, Clarity? Okay, go ahead, Councilor.
My apologies, I had one more and I forgot to put a question mark beside it, and so I missed it when I scanned my page. Can you just speak to, very, very briefly, the two data sets, 2020, 2024, were those data sets collected at the same time of year within the same season, if you will?
Okay, go ahead.
Through your worship to Councillor Anderson, yes, they were.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I'm not sure if this is necessarily relevant to, but it is a transportation asset management update. I'm just curious because I was driving the other day in the dark and I was crossing the highway, and there was a gentleman who I nearly hit because he was taking the overpass, and I assumed that he was living in the Meridian Meadows mobile home park there. I'm curious, I know that you can cross obviously down by Safeway. Is there, are we looking at any way of people from the other end of town, possibly Meridian Meadows, being able to access the rest of the town? Okay, go ahead.
Through your worship to Councillor Meyer, there's no current plans to do any direct work on the bridge. That's Alberta Transportation's bridge, and they don't typically, as a typical fashion, they will not usually upgrade them for sidewalks unless it's a very specific need, or if they're doing a major rehab as it is, which to the best of my knowledge are not planned. I know as we are generally looking at further expansions into the North Industrial, there's dialogue of possibly new connections into the area through the main highways, and as we look at new intersections, we would be looking at pedestrian connectivity with them as well. But in that specific location, there's to the best of my knowledge, there's no planned upgrades to make pedestrian crossing any different than it is now.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions for clear understanding? Okay, see none. Councilor Loyens for the motion, please.
Town Council accept the transportation asset management update for information.
Okay, thank you very much, and definitely appreciate the presentation and the questions for clear understanding, and a few comments as well as to see where we are in terms of our capital plans and repair and maintenance for all three assets. Members of Council, any questions, comments, and debate on the motion? Thank you very much, Administration, for bringing this forward. Actually, this is useful for members of Council and to our staff as well. And definitely looking forward to, over the next couple of corporate plans, to see some of these areas addressed in those plans. Call the question. All in favor? Okay, that is carried. Moving on to 9.3, which is the recreation facility project update. And as everybody's aware, this is the phase 1 of the recreation facility, so go ahead.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of Council. I'm not sure why we're getting subtitles on the bottom of this presentation. That's a first for me. Quick update for you on the on the rec facility project.
That's amazing with
Yes,
technology
it
right
is,
now.
is amazing. Not a lot to share with you this evening, but I would like to give you a bit of an update. It's the first quarter of the project, and just quickly go through where we're at, and just a quick reminder of where we've been. As you're aware, in April, you gave us approval for the project. September, we awarded the construction to GenCall Construction. October, we did have a groundbreaking, and we had our regional partners with us, Westview. Curling Club was also part of that groundbreaking event, and GenCall and BR2. November, construction started, and if you recall, in 2024, we just got a little bit ahead of the ground prep and the site prep that was required for the project. And then we didn't then start construction again in March of 2025, so this year. We are projecting and looking forward to the facility being open in Q4 2026, aiming for the ice at the curling facility to be ready for play in sometime September 2026. So again, completed to date. This is part of the construction update. Site prep has been done, so I think if you've been by the site, you've seen a lot of work and a lot of earth being moved around that particular site. Shell utilities, we still have a little bit of work to do there, but certainly those utilities are going in fairly quickly. We have put in some of the deep utilities, so the water and sewer have been placed on the site. Geothermal, so the rig truck that you would have seen recently on the site, that was actually the geothermal loop going into the facility. So that has to go in prior to any of the infrastructure going on top, i.e. asphalt and landscaping. Also, a lot of ordering of and procuring of materials required for the facility. So there are some vendors that we're trying to get ahead of potential tariff impacts. They have ordered, received. We have put some provisions in for storage at different locations to ensure that those products are ready for us. An example of that would be ice plant would typically come constructed out of the US from Simcoe. And delivered right to site when we require it. Simcoe has ordered all the parts. They're actually constructing it in their on their site in Atchison and in Edmonton, and we're just paying as they build, and then they'll bring it over to our site when we're ready for install. So parts and pieces are actually being shipped to Alberta quicker than what they typically would be, just that we can benefit from not paying those extra fees that have the potential of being there. Again, just a reminder for you on the project budget. So just under 42 million. Curling Club is, the curling side of the project is about 8.7. Dry sport is just over 24 million. Entrance, 8.4, so just under 5 million, and the site is just under 4. An exciting feature that we've added to the project, we do have a time-lapse camera. We have taken, since we've installed, I think this is roughly a month and a half. It's about 30 seconds. So my understanding is, I think it's 100 pictures per second. So it takes a lot of pictures in order to stitch together a bit of a video. Intention is to provide this to council during our quarterly updates. The other intention is on about a monthly frequency to upload it to our website so that people can follow along with the progress. So if you give me 30 seconds, we can watch a lot of trucks moving around a dirt site. So, Mr. Mayor and Council, you can see on the right-hand side of that, there's actually some progression of more infrastructure and less dirt. And that portion of that particular screen is where the large part of the building is going. In closing, Mr. Mayor and members of council, so the project is on track. Budget-wise, I believe we're on track and trending in what I would deem a typical project of this size and magnitude and scope. Not a lot of surprise that we've encountered to date. And please knock on a piece of wood as you're walking out of the council chambers this evening so we can continue with that trend. We have provided an update to Parkland County Council as they did provide $1.6 million to us with respect to this project. And we will continue to bring updates to council on a quarterly basis. Mr. Mayor, happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you for the presentation and update. And definitely this is an exciting project for members of council and our community as a whole. Just maybe I'll ask the first question before I go to members of council. So in terms of the work that's been happening here over the last little while, has there been an impact on the transportation and the pedestrian traffic there to Westview School?
Your Worship, through yourself and council, certainly the trail connector between the Brickyard and 57th has been impacted and closed based on the utility installation. We're anticipating that that'll open back up in July, and it will be open again for the school season for the fall. So as soon as the utilities get in, because they're working close proximity to that particular trail system, it's a bit of a safety issue, so that will be opened back up again.
Okay, thank you. Members of council, any questions for clarity and understanding? Okay, Councillor Laurie, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. And actually, I just wanted to tag on to your question there. Not directly related to the recreation facility itself, but more so the area and the traffic on Brickyard Drive. Obviously, we have the construction on the recreation center site, but we also have the construction on the adjacent roadways for the new homes within the Brickyard neighborhood. We have the construction of the new storm pond in the Brickyard neighborhood, and we've got the construction going on for the future phases. With that, the traffic, the parking, and the road conditions along Brickyard Drive have been very, very challenging over the last several weeks in particular. And I'm just wondering what steps we're taking to mitigate that, or if there is anything we are considering. I will bring to light the fact I have observed many near misses with pedestrians, with school children in that area, particularly because of the parking along Brickyard Drive. And I'm wondering if we've considered making one side of Brickyard Drive no parking for the time being in order to facilitate better sight lines during construction.
Okay, thank you. Administration.
Your Worship, through to Councillor Laurie, certainly anytime vehicles are hauling things in and out, so we do have road haul agreements which have specific requirements. I did travel the site this afternoon. The road is in great condition, in my opinion, from what it was a couple weeks ago. A lot of that had to do with we had winter salt with the parking construction. Certainly that impaired our ability to get rid of that. We did have I would say, I'm going to make a guess here, 100 loads of clay brought into the site. That causes issues too. We definitely had some wet weather, so the tracking in and out of that particular site was a little bit on the higher end than typical. You're right, we do have construction across the street. Our enforcement team is constantly going out and reminding people of their requirements to keep the street clean, and the sidewalk in front of the construction on the opposite side of that particular 57th and Brickyard Drive also is a requirement. So it's a bit of a tricky location at this point because we have a lot of construction and a lot of trades or workers required for both sides of that street. I can certainly talk to my colleague a couple doors down here and talk about if there's an opportunity for us and what the impacts would be on the ability for the crews that are currently working on both sides of the street to find a different parking option that would assist in some of those safety. Certainly we can continue to work with the school with respect to that safety. I think once we get the trail open, that may assist with that greatly because a lot of the traffic was using that larger trail network on the left-hand side of Brickyard Drive.
Thank you, appreciate that. And I would go as far as to say some of the challenges are actually more so related to the new homes under construction on the west side of Brickyard Drive. I've noticed a multitude of times various contractors and vehicles that have not only been parked significantly into the roadway rather than directly against the curb, they're also doing a significant amount of work, prefabrication type work on the roadway prior to actually moving whatever it is that they're doing either onto or into the site. Again, as I mentioned, there's been some significant sightline concerns. due to the number of vehicles and then this type of work. And there's also been traffic concerns where the roadway has been narrowed at times to points where two vehicles can't pass each other, even though it's a very significantly wide roadway and meant as a pretty significant traffic network. So appreciate the efforts that have gone on. Definitely the efforts in relation to the gravel, the sand, the clay, et cetera, were noted. And I think it was action quite quickly once it was brought forward, so appreciate that. Again, just with a couple weeks left of school here in this year, and then with obviously school starting back up in the fall, just want to make sure we continue to look out for the pedestrian safety along there. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Laurie. Any other questions, comments for clear and understanding? See none, thank you for the update. Councilor Plechko for the motion, please.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. The Town Council accept the recreation facility project update for information.
Okay. Thank you. Members of Council, any questions, comments on or debate on the motion to accept? See none, I'll call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Okay. And that ends our business items today. So moving on to number 10, which is council discussion. So this is the time that we allow members of council to update the rest of council and admin staff on any questions, comments, or concerns that they've heard from our community, and also anything from our external boards and commissions as well. Councilor Plechko, we'll start with you.
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Loynes.
Thank you, Your Worship. I wanted just to start off by mentioning that it is Father's Day on Sunday, so happy Father's Day to all those dads out there, as well as summer sessions are starting on the 18th. Gates open at 5:30. Special guest starts at 6:30, and the headliner is at 7, and that's taking part at Heritage Park. Midsummer Thursdays is also starting up on the 19th, and that is from 5 to 8 on Main Street. And I just wanted to bring to attention, I know I received a message from our general manager regarding a concern about an alleyway by the Red Brick Common. If he could just provide an update on that publicly, that'd be great. Thank you.
Through your worship to Councillor Loynes and all the council, I can provide a quick update on that. So received an email from Councillor Loynes and a couple of councillors on the weekend that there was what appeared to be a sinkhole on the alleyway there. This was sent to staff. They investigated. It was from a utility provider that was doing some directional drilling in the area. Staff have marked it with a cone to avoid any unfortunate interactions from anybody in the area, and the utility provider is being contacted to address it. We do appreciate finding out about these things early. It helps us to mitigate what could become a larger problem, so thank you for sending it over.
Good. Thank you. Anything else?
No, that's it for me tonight.
Councillor Meyer?
Nothing for me this evening, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Laurie?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Councillor Anderson?
I'll be very quick, but I do have just two quick items. Forgot to ask this during the pavement asset management. How does the track over by Westview School play into our pavement quality index? Was that measured? Will it be measured, and so on?
Through Councillor, through your worship to Councillor Anderson, regarding the track isn't considered in the same assessments as the roads, trails, and sidewalks, though it does use we do use similar methods to evaluate it. The track's considered a recreational asset, so it goes into a separate programming, though it is something that we do plan for work through the rest of the recreational assets. So it is on, it's in a different program, but is considered for rehab.
Perfect, thank you. So do appreciate that it's being considered, and certainly just on the other side, so thank you for that. With that, just quick offer of gratitude. I know this came up a little bit earlier today with the award that was presented to senior leadership of our municipality, but certainly we know as council that we have amazing people that work here, and I think it's about time that someone externally recognizes the good things that are going on here. But truly, to our town manager, our CAO, to our SLT team, to the managers that fall under there, and all the staff that have been a part of the leadership programs and so on. A lot to be proud of, and a lot for us as council to be grateful for, and to Manager of Ledge Services and our EA for having the opportunity to go and accept that award. Certainly appreciate all they do as well. And so, we're fortunate, as council to work with some amazing people. And I think that award is just some external validation of what we already know. And so kudos to our staff.
Good. Thank you, Councilor Anderson. Deputy Mayor?
I have a couple of things, Mr. Mayor. Just want to remind everybody, I believe it's the 18th, Wednesday, summer sessions kicks off. And that'll be at Heritage Park, and those are wonderful. I always put them as a priority for me during the summer for the number of weeks that it runs. Also on the 19th, Midsummer Thursdays, our downtown activities. That has grown really popular over the last couple of years. And we have a council booth that will be there so that people can come and talk to us about anything at all. Also, I had the privilege to attend the Royal Canadian Air Cadet 60th Anniversary Parade and Review yesterday at Heavy Metal Place. That's a very nice facility for such an event as that. And they did us proud, really. There were a number of their members who were aging out. I thought that was a rather odd term, since really they're graduating from the cadet program and could go on and pursue military careers, should they wish to, before or after more formal education. Also on Saturday, we were represented by myself at the Spruce Grove Composite High School graduation at Expo Center in Edmonton. One of the teachers there told me that there were 14,000 people in attendance at that facility. Parking was impossible. However, there were 3 high schools at the same time having their graduation, and I understand morning sessions. We were in the afternoon 3 schools, and then there would be evening schools. So you can imagine how busy that all was. Spruce Grove's graduating class had 350 students, and there was no limit on the number of people who could come for each student, which I thought was wonderful, because so many times the siblings and the grandparents and aunts and uncles and cousins aren't able to attend. There was no limit. And so I think that explained why there were 14,000 people there for 3 high schools. It was a privilege to stand in for you, Mr. Mayor, on those events. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and definitely appreciate filling in for me in terms of juggling my schedule. As everybody knows, it's quite difficult with a lot of the events that we're asked to participate in, and definitely appreciate the team that we do have that's able to step in from time to time. All right, there's an emergency going on. Okay, that's good. I think everybody's highlighted a few things that are happening next week. So just wanted to highlight something that's happening later this week is on the 12th, Build Edmonton will be coming through Stony Plain. So we're having a Metro Main Street tour. So the city of St. Albert and the town of Stony Plain will be hosting, right now, currently there's 33 members that have registered to come participate. First, they'll get a tour of the Main Street in St. Albert. We'll board a bus, come to Stony Plain, and do a little tour of our Main Street and some of the initiatives that our council and our community has done together in terms of partnerships with community groups, partnerships with developers, and also and how we re-engage and reactivated our downtown. So if you're available and around and you see us, you'll probably see 40 of us walking down Main Street. Give us a wave and holler. Please stop at the traffic circle, because I know some people don't know how to drive that yet. So it is yield and wait for the traffic to finish before you enter. With that, thank you, members of administration, for bringing the reports and agenda to us, and members of council for reading them and bringing your questions for clear understanding and the conversation. And with that, go others go. We're adjourned.